Well, hello. My name is Justin Bair. I am an Associate Director of Worship and Music at St. Luke's, and this is Methodantics, where we investigate dusty ideas. These are questions you may have had about the church and how it runs and what you might experience in a worship service. And so we look to hopefully answer some of those. Mostly that's me asking Sid what the answers are and Sid telling me what they are. So since I've half introduced him, I'll let him take it from here.
I am Sid Davis. I'm Director of Music and Fine Arts at St. Luke's, United Methodist Church, and pleased to be back here with my friend Justin, where we're just chatting it up about things that may puzzle you about the worship services and sort of things in general where, uh, well, we're going to talk about that more later. We're going to get to the nuts and bolts of that later. But today's question is why fine arts? Why not just music? Why music and fine arts? Which is an excellent question. I have always been so pleased to be at a church that really takes the arts seriously and their correlation and intersection with the gospel. And St. Luke's is a shining star in that regard, I think. And I've really enjoyed my career here so much because of all the things that we get to do and the way that we get to display and interpret the gospel to people through music and fine arts. So
Speaking of career, this is is it 25 for you?
25.
Are
I,
you, so like whenever I ask my dad how old he is, he always has to go, okay, let's see, I was born in 55 and it's 20. So he has to like do the math. So are you pretty good at like keeping track of what
yeah, sadly, I am pretty good. Our good, dear, close friend, or it was until I'm about to say this, Jim Roman says that he has a hard time remembering how old he is because it changes every year. I said, it's true. It's how it works.
without fail, as it turns
Yep.
out,
Yep. I am indeed 66, just like the root.
just like the route or route, depending on your locale.
That's right.
So I'm kind of the one I think that asked this question, why fine arts? Because I'm coming at this from really, I guess, two different perspectives that sort of converge in this way at St. Luke's, where um, my my church background um, was not something that I would classify as fine arts. There were certain times of the year, or maybe certain events that we would kind of tap into, trying to experience art or dance or something like that. But I mean, it was, high 90% just music. It was always, it was the music ministry. In fact, my degree is music ministry. And so it was interesting to me coming from that background where it was really all music to it was music and fine arts. And at the same time, that's when we came to St. Luke's 2012 was my first year as a teacher and in the public schools. And so we were under, the fine arts umbrella. And so we had our director of fine arts and fine arts was dance and art and music and theater and all of those things all combined. And so my understanding was always from an academic perspective that's where fine arts comes from was academia. And so in some ways it was like this kind of weird convergence of what I had always known and experienced church to be, and then what I was learning and doing in my music education career. And those were kind of combined here at St. Luke's. And I thought, well, that was a really interesting.
My dog is here. Can you tell? I don't know what she's barking at, but
I didn't know if you were just really hungry, or
sorry.
is the sound of my voice not very soothing? That's funny.
It's Maisie.
Um,
She'll be okay.
so it's just interesting to see where or how that has come together then at St. Luke's. And then the more time that I've spent at St. Luke's, the more I really see and I get to tell people this is truly a place where Sid is the director of music and fine arts. This is very much a broad spectrum. So could you walk me through sort of all the aspects that would branch out of not just music, but what makes St. Luke's fine arts?
Well, of course, the easiest indicator of that to highlight would be our Rotunda Theater. when Walter Underwood was here and that wing was built, and the Rotunda Theater and the gallery were included. He did that wherever he was. He was at First Methodist in Dallas. They also have a Rotunda Theater. Um, I've often said you don't install a pipe organ and not have a really fine organist. You don't have a theater and not have a theater program, drama program. Um, I mean, you could leave the walls of your art gallery blank, but who would want to do that? So those are the first two things that really spring to mind. We've done everything, including we did a story project years ago where we published a book of stories that were contributed by the congregation. That was really fun. A lot of work. We used to have a poetry corner. Actually, we still sort of do. They have not been changed in a long time, and that's my fault. Um, where the art through poetry was also part of what we did. So that it was music, visual arts, theater, poetry. We tried to touch on all of those things.
Is this Poetry Corner a physical corner of the building?
Yeah, well, it's not a corner per se, but there are about three spots in the building where poetry is hanging on the wall, framed, hanging on the wall.
Okay.
Because that too is, I mean, we live and die by poetry. I think, because especially when you think about hymns were poems before they were sung, so poetry is very, very important. But I have friends who are at churches where their titles are music and fine arts, and I'm just so glad to be at a church that really, really takes it, as I said, takes it very seriously. And we sort of toss around religious sounding phrases and that are really religious, that we often make them trite because we overuse them, that God is love and we're all children of God and we're created in the image of God. If we are created in the image of God, we too are creators. And that's where that's a touchstone for me, because we do so much creating, both musically, on the stage. We encourage it for our art gallery, etc.
Yeah.
So that's
Um,
where that comes from.
a question that I often ask, because I'm really pretty new to even just the Methodist world, but also very obviously St. Luke's, is is this a United Methodist thing? Is this a St. Luke's thing? Is this like there was a staff member who wanted to do the same thing? Um, and so you say, this is a lot of this is something you really inherited. So I mean, you didn't build the Rotunda Theater. That was there well before you, 80s, early 80s.
1980, 81. Yeah.
Okay. Um, so yeah, obviously this was something that was kind of part of the DNA, or at least the values of St. Luke's well before you came in the mid 90s.
I'm
Um,
happy to say that churches where I served before, as I was, if I'm not careful, it's going to sound like I arrived at my first full time church job with a fully formed idea of what music and fine art should be. Not true. The serving the church really shaped me more than the other way around, me shaping the church. And drama has always been very important to me and the churches. I've only served three churches. And at the other two, we did that. We did a lot of artistic things at my last church. We did one Lent an entire display of retablos, the antique Mexican, almost like icons.
okay.
Uh, that was splendid. Stuff like that. I've always been super interested in that. It's just been since I've been at St. Luke's that I've really fully, I think fully for me, realized the power of all of that and how it can change people's lives, and how it can change people's lives parallel with the gospel in ways they never expected. It sneaks up on them, you know? And I think those things are so important. And I believe very much in the power of pattern interrupt. And if church for a certain person has been this and only this for so long, and suddenly you introduce this and they go, this blows their mind, you know.
Yeah.
This is church. This has to do with God. Absolutely.
Um, and so the rotunda being built in 80, 81, it just got its first facelift in like 40 years, give or
Well,
take.
it's actually second. After Tropical Storm Allison, the Rotunda, if for the people who have been in there, it's stepped down. You know, you step in and you step down to the different rows and the stages on the very lowest level. During Tropical Storm Allison, it filled with the water, absolute clear water. It was like a big swimming pool. And after that, we did get new carpet and repaint. But this, we celebrated the 40th anniversary of the Rotunda Theater, which, again, in the midst of COVID, just gives me hunger pangs to be back down there. But it was a complete facelift. We have a new lighting system, we have new paint, chairs have been reupholstered, a new floor. It
Well, I
just
don't think I've seen the chairs.
really well. They were reupholstered first. You
Okay.
have seen them, but they were reupholstered. That was the very first thing that happened. They used to be red, very faded red.
And I was surprised by I'm really not like I like theater and I like musicals and that kind of thing, but I was surprised by the format of a round theater. Um, Obviously, where Rotunda gets his name. Uh, is that a really common way to house like a theater to have everything kind of in the middle of the room?
Basically, it's a black box. I mean, if you go to Rice, for example, they have a black box theater for their opera program, which is just a big empty space where you can create seating in the round or three sides in a proscenium. You can do all sorts of things. In the rotunda, it is configured in the round. We have 150 seats in the round. We most often, use the west side as a stage and use it as a proscenium style thing, and use it then just do seating on three sides. But yeah, theater in the round is pretty common. There's some famous theaters around the country. One in New York, one in Dallas, Theater Three, that's in the round, and fairly common. Not you don't see it everywhere, but it really involves the audience because you're so close to the performers. Um, it's super intimate, and when you can reach out and touch the performer, we hope you won't, but if you could, I mean, it just sucks you right into the story.
Well, I guess since we're a church, it helps to double as not fully like stage audience separate, where you can have small group meetings or Sunday school classes or something like that where everything feels very communal and round instead of there's somebody way up there and then you're everyone else. Um,
Right. I wish I had collected over the years some of the comments from people who've been in productions, whether it's tapestry players, which is what is primarily our adults theater, doing theater, or through pure sound. Theater, being on stage, strips away things and reveals things in people that they had no idea were there. Confidence and security and team building and just so many things. One of the most remarkable sentences I ever heard was at the beginning of one of our adult productions. We were in a circle, and the director was saying, going to each person and saying, "Why are you doing this?" And one of the people said, "Because I don't want to be afraid anymore." And I mean, I just wanted to either weep or go sit in the dark and think about that for a while. Um, just think if all of us were not afraid anymore.
yeah, it's remarkable. So when let's say pre-COVID, if we're looking at a standard year, how many productions um, happen in the Rotunda every year?
Well, Tapestry would probably do five, 4 or 5. Pure Sound would do their spring musical, and then in the late summer, we do what's called Babes on Broadway, and which is a select group, an invited group from Pure Sound. So 7, maybe 8. We're pretty busy. But gosh, I say all the time, these are the good old days, and COVID notwithstanding, we are in the middle of the good old days at a place that values and lifts up creating as a way to worship God. Um, it's a remarkable thing.
So it's not just the addition of theater, but there's something alongside. I guess this was done maybe the same time as the Rotunda.
Rotunda
And
Gallery.
um,
Yeah, it's the
that,
space.
go
It
ahead.
it's long and narrow. Has It's all skylit, so you've got natural light in there. And we have a different, in non-COVID times, we have a different artist every month. Randy Murrow oversees that, and it's not. We have very few artists from in the church, almost none. These are outside artists, and artists are always looking for a place to display their work. And we've had everything you can think of down there: oil paintings, watercolor, acrylic, sculpture, ceramics, jewelry, everything you can think of. And
One of
it's
the
every
last
month.
ones, one of the last ones I remember before we were all sent home last March, had a lot of use of like old cassette tapes
Uh-huh.
glued on and spray painted in different ways, and it was pretty interesting stuff.
Funky. I love the funky stuff.
Yeah,
I love
and
that.
we've had some of those artists have done commission stuff for us. Is that right?
We have a commission that is due pretty much any day that's going to hang in the Johnson Gallery from Marlo Saucedo, who actually grew up at St. Luke's and has a super interesting style where when you get up close to her or her paintings, they're the figures, buildings or animals or whatever it is, are made up of text. And this is going to be a skyline of St. Luke's. I mean, it's of Houston, and it's going to be really beautiful. It'll be hanging in the Johnson Building, hopefully in the next month to 6 weeks.
Do you know what the text is for that?
I believe that it's a very diverse language, a bunch of different languages. At one time, I think we were entertaining the idea of the word "thank you" um, in different languages, but I think we've expanded from that. Randy would really have to answer that question. But we love Marlo's work, and it's going to be wonderful. I've got several. I have to be really careful because I can spend a lot of money down there. So I have several pieces at my house. I have
I was
several
gonna say,
pieces.
so those are often for sale. I mean, it's
Oh
not
yeah,
just
mhm.
for display. I mean, you can purchase these
That's
pieces.
right. And a percentage of the sale goes back to St. Luke's.
Cool.
Yeah.
Um, so we've spent several Methodantics talking about the music at St. Luke's, and I know we'll spend several more talking about them. And we've covered theater and a lot of what that has to do with the life at St. Luke's and our art gallery. Am I missing anything as a still pretty fresh eyes?
Um, you know, we're surrounded by art, and I pulled up this quote because it's one of my favorites. It's from my very favorite book, Pilgrim at Tinker Creek by Annie Dillard. Yeah, all my friends want to gag when I say that because I say it so often. But she says the answer must be, I think, that beauty and grace are performed whether or not we will or sense them. The least we can do is try to be there. And, our last one, we talked about the things that we find in this building that are there for a reason, that are not just decorative. They have meaning, they're symbolic. Um, and those things really only have meaning if we show up to them.
Yeah.
And likewise, theater, visual art, poetry, music, you have to show up. You have to let it do its work on you. Um, but it's all around us. I had a friend tell me once, years and years ago. He said, "Try finding an object that didn't start out as something on an artist's sketchboard." And it's true. I mean, pretty much everything you see started out as a sketch by a visual artist.
Yeah.
It's all around us.
Well, I'm certainly glad to be a part of it at St. Luke's, and there's still, I mean, when I first got here, I sort of just put my head down and tried to not make anybody angry and do the best job that I could. And so I feel like I'm still kind of waking up to certain things. I mean, because of the last Methodantics we did, now every time I drop my girls off in the morning and I drive by that entrance to the sanctuary, I look up and I see all the designs and I see all the features. And you have helped me pay attention. And so I try to the truism is stop and smell the roses, right? And I try to to look up and look around at St. Luke's more and more. And I feel like every time I do, I notice more. I mean, there's St. Luke's is, I joke that it's like Hogwarts because the building is so huge and there's so many like hallways and it's like every nook and cranny that we were able to make, we put art there. There's sculptures and there's paintings and there's
True.
all kinds of stuff.
Very true. We're very lucky in that regard. Well, we try to end our episodes with a question that might let you get to know us a little bit better, and today's no different. So we're going to talk about what may be going on at our houses. We just came through a very interesting, cold, freezing, dark week. So there may be new stuff going on that might not have been going on before. I'll start. This actually has nothing to do with the freeze, but we are getting a new deck out in our backyard, which I'm really excited about. But in order to do that, they have to take out the slab that is our old sort of patio, small patio. And so they're jackhammering at my house. So that's why I'm sitting in my lovely striped chair in my office, because I would be hurting somebody by the end of the day of nothing but jackhammers.
Yeah, and hopefully when you go home this evening, you don't have a bunch of eggs on the front of your house, or you're everybody's least favorite neighbor right now. I mean, that's
Indeed.
the epitome of, oh my God, somebody's.
Well, I'm glad to be gone.
You should go around and give all your neighbors little cards and say, I'm just so sorry.
Give them a cake.
As soon as you get your vaccination, just come sit on my deck. It'll be so nice.
That's right.
So are you expanding that? Or are you trying to make it like more of an outdoor kind of living area? I've never seen it, just only in pictures.
Yeah, and as most of you know, I'm in a wheelchair, and most of the time, and we're making it not only bigger, and so that we can meet people and be with family out there and have actually work meetings out there, but so that it's the same level, so I can roll out of our sunroom onto the deck without either falling over, having to use a ramp, and have somebody stop me before I go flying into the grass, that sort of thing.
It's a little bit less exciting, but that's fine.
It's just less exciting. I'm ready to be less excited. What's going on at your house?
We were so fortunate. We moved to this house in July, and we were so fortunate to move next door to just a really, really lovely couple. And they happened to have a daughter who is Nora's age. But unfortunately, we moved in the middle of the pandemic, and the girls are just like clawing their eyes out to get to hang out together. So really the best we can afford them at this point is sort of like the boy in the striped pajamas. They sort of just talk through the fence. And they like hit balls over the fence toward each other, or balloons or something. And Nora's going to be very disappointed when she comes home, because she's only been able to do that because the fence is in pretty bad shape. It's very rickety and has kind of these gaping holes in it. And so she gets to poke her head through and talk to the neighbors. But over the last 2 or 3 days or so, there's been a crew in there, and they're putting up a very large, very nice new fence. But Nora's going to feel like she's very enclosed, and she's just lost her only COVID distance friend.
Might need to build little storybook doors in that fence.
I thought about it actually. Yeah, like little fairy gates or something.
There you go.
Knock on it. Peek in. So that's what's happening.
That's excellent. So Justin's so much better at telling you how to get in touch with us. If you have questions that you would like for us to entertain or look up, we can certainly do that. He's going to tell you how to do that.
You speak publicly all the time, and you should just practice it. But I'll do it. I think
I know my limits.
So you can email either of us, as Sid said. My email is jbair@stlukesmethodist.org, and Sid's is sdavis@stlukesmethodist.org. We'd be happy to hear from you if you have any questions, any topics you would want us to cover in future episodes, or any questions about the episode we just had. We'd be more than happy to interact with you and even share your questions here on the podcast.
That's right. Send us a note. We'll get to it.
Okay.
So have a good day. Good luck with your fence. Wish me luck with my jackhammer.
Indeed.
Bye.